Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Microphone Money Podcast. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Well, I thought this was going to be a two-part episode, but I had a lot to say about it, so we're breaking it into three parts. So now we're on episode 23, and today we're going to be focusing in on decision makers and how to get through to decision makers in larger businesses as you're trying to grow your clientele. Now, this all wraps into why I am an advocate for an interview-based show. This is one of the deeper business concepts. I'll probably do another episode on this later as we get further down the road. But for right now, I think it's really important to illustrate why you might choose an interview-based show because of the unique opportunities it gives you to get yourself or to get people that are going to be significant to building your business into your network. I think that's very important. So let's talk about dealing with and getting in front of decision makers. Now, I want to move on to talking about decision makers. Now, this is the next step in the process, okay? So, eventually, you are going to reach a point where you're going to have a level of confidence, a level of skill, and a level of name recognition and a catalog of shows and all of that where it's going to be time for you to start approaching larger businesses and offering to produce content for them. And when I say larger businesses, I'm talking about big businesses like multi-billion-dollar publicly traded businesses. Okay? Those days are coming for you. Now, there's going to be other small businesses that you can provide this service for as well. But I want to focus in on this for a second because this network issue, building this network, it really makes a difference here. Of these larger businesses that you're going to want to approach and you're going to want to partner with and be a part of their story, you need, in order to be effective, in order to have a chance of actually collaborating with them on a project, you're going to have to reach what I refer to as their decision makers, the person that can actually make the decision to go forward with a project. And I will tell you, this can be very, very difficult. And it can be frustrating too. These folks are going to be out there on LinkedIn, and they're going to accept your friend request. They're going to accept your connection request on LinkedIn, and it's going to feel like you just got a step closer, and you didn't. It can be frustrating. I will also tell you that I've done plenty of my time on the phone trying to connect, not just online. And please do not get hung up on all the online tools. The online tools are awesome. Can't rely on them. You got to go old-fashioned sometimes. So I've spent a lot of time on the phone, and I have spoke with a lot of very, very friendly, very enthusiastic receptionists on the telephone who loved my idea, even championed my cause, and the idea still went nowhere. I will give you an example. There is a tractor manufacturer. For the Off-Farm Income podcast, I have been trying to get a sponsor of the show that is a tractor manufacturer for some time because I think it would be such a great fit. I am convinced of this. And I have tried, and I've banged my head on the wall and tried to figure out how to get in. How can I get in touch with these people? And I decided I am just going to keep trying at this one company until I get a hard no. And I kept trying. And I never got anywhere. And finally, what I realized was every time I called, I was getting the same receptionist for this large company. So I got her name, started talking to her, and I'm like, I've talked to you a million times, and you've been really gracious, really kind, and you've transferred me, and it's really hard to get in touch with people. And I kind of gave her the whole story of me, my company, what I did, how hard it was to get in touch with people, and she championed my cause. She's like, you know what? I think these three people give you the best chance. I mean, she gave me inside info. I think these three people give you the best chance of getting where you want to go. She told me their names. She connected me to them. I got their voicemails. I still got nowhere, even with this person championing my cause. So that can be very frustrating. And the question is, well, why? Why did this happen? And when it comes to these folks, they're the gatekeepers. They're not the decision makers. And a good gatekeeper will turn you away and not let you get where you're trying to get going with a smile on your face because they're nice people and they're just doing their job, but they do it in a very, very good way. And it can be very, very frustrating. So there are a couple very significant challenges to you being able to get your ideas in front of the right people. And I know I'm going to revisit this later as we get deeper into the show and into the more advanced concepts of building this business. But as we talk about doing an interview-based show, I wanted to make this case for doing an interview-based show as well, because this issue, an interview-based show, can really help you get past. So challenge number one, of course, is the gatekeepers. And the first thing you got to do is you got to find a way to get past the gatekeeper. And again, I bring up business conferences all the time. This is why business conferences are so popular, because it's an opportunity to meet and interact with these decision makers face to face, where otherwise you would never get this opportunity. And you can do it without a gatekeeper stopping you. So it at least gives you a modicum of a chance, right? But you got to pay to go to these things. I just got back from a conference in Kansas City. It was a great conference. I've never been to one that was more perfect for me developing my business than this one I just went to. It was off the rails good. Still, for me to go by myself for 3 nights, I got a flight, I got meals, I got hotels, I've got socializing events, and everything else that goes with it. That's $1,000. It's right at $1,000 just for me to go by myself for 3 nights, right at $1,000. That's not cheap. Oh, I got to pay to get into the conference. And the conferences are not cheap. And I knew I wanted to go to this conference this year, so I had my eyes open. And they always open these conferences up where you can register for them early. And to encourage early registration, they discount the price. So I even got the discounted price on registering for this conference. I'm still dropping $1,000 out of my business budget to go to this thing. So while I got access to a lot of decision makers, and this was fruitful, but while I got access to a lot of decision makers, it is an expensive venture. It's expensive to do this. So conferences are popular for this reason, and that's why they can charge so much for them. And there's still no guarantees when you do this. Now, but in your case, you're just starting out in your business. You're just starting out in your podcasting business, and really, you should be bootstrapping it. You should be bootstrapping this business right now. And so going to drop $1,000 on a conference is probably not happening for you right at this moment. So at this early stage of your business, a conference is probably just not the best way for you to spend money, because you don't have that much value to offer at this point, right? You don't have that much to offer at this point. You're not ready to approach these decision makers and offer to do a campaign with them or something like that. So we're just like every other poor sap out there that's trying to get through to these decision makers, through the gatekeepers, and we keep getting repeatedly blocked. And trust me, these folks, these gatekeepers at these companies, they're getting hundreds of calls every day from folks who are trying to get through to these decision makers, and their whole job is to filter these people out. That is their whole job. Okay, so let's say that you get through a gatekeeper. Here's challenge number 2. How do you identify who the actual decision maker is? Now, I didn't invent this whole concept here. I've read this before in different books on sales and things like that. And even as I read it, I sat there perplexed and went, how do I ever identify who the actual decision maker is? Well, I figured out a way to do it, but it's not like you can look it up on the manifesto of the company, or you can't go to their done sheet, or you can't go to their website or their social media page or something like that and have all this listed out and say, if you want to reach the actual decision maker for blah, 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 this is the person you need to speak to. No, that's not going to happen. But there is a way to do it, and having a guest-oriented podcast is going to help you get there. All right. So let's say, hypothetically, you get past the first gatekeeper and you have pierced the organization's defenses. Even if just slightly, you've just gotten just a little bit past the gatekeeper, but you're in, right? You're past that first layer of defense. How do you know if the person that you're now being allowed to speak with is an actual decision maker? Because after all, this might just be the next layer of defense that is designed to rightfully filter information so only the best and most relevant information works its way up that chain of command and ever gets to the people with the authority to make these decisions, to spend the money to make these important decisions. They have to have these filtering mechanisms. They have to. There's no other way for them to function than I know of. So I will tell you that there have been times when I've made it to that next level of the organization through phone calls, through being very polite, nice, convincing to that first layer of defense, that first gatekeeper. And I've made it to that next level into that organization structure, and then I got a telephone call. So I actually got on the phone, a voice-to-voice conversation with somebody who's in their marketing or in their communications department. And there have been times when that telephone call went very, very well, and I thought I had a very, very real shot. And on more than one occasion, and this is not an exaggeration, on more than one occasion, after that phone call was over, I have gone onto LinkedIn to connect with that person. I looked at their profile, and I saw that just 3 months earlier, not exaggerating, just 3 months earlier, that person that I just got done speaking with and the conversation that had gone so well, they had just graduated college, they had just got their bachelor's degree in marketing or communications or whatever that may be. Yes. This person was a newly hired marketing or communications staffer with zero experience, no real-world experience. They're just getting started in their career. This is their first job out of college. They're clearly brand new, trying to find their way in this company. They're feeling out this new career. And so when I talk to them on the telephone, my idea sounds great to them. But you want to know why? Because at this stage in their career, any idea sounds great to them right now. Any idea does, because they haven't seen that much. And so as long as they've got something to put on the agenda for the next marketing meeting, even if they've got the ear of the decision maker that you're really trying to get to, they're happy, right? They just want to be able to put something on the agenda. They just want to have the ear of that decision maker for a couple minutes to show that they're doing something and they're working on it. But that decision maker, that executive, they are not going to give a lot or maybe any weight to what this brand new hire is excited about, because they can think back to when they were at that stage and they were brand new out of college and their first job, and they realize that this person is long on enthusiasm, but they are very short on understanding true value. They are very short on experience. And so they're not going to give a lot of weight to it. This has happened to me more than one time. Matter of fact, I'm still communicating with this second line of defense, if you will, on a company that I think I could do some great things with through the Off-Farm Income podcast. And I've been working on it and working on it and working on it. And at this point, since it's gone on for about a year, this person's about a year and a half out of college now. But this is one of those things. This has happened. So it can be very, very frustrating. But again, having an interview-based podcast can help you skip over all this. Okay. Challenge number 3. There's a third challenge. How do you get the decision makers to take you seriously? Now, in a large company, the people who are vested with the responsibility of spending that company's money on projects that are going to benefit the company, they are skeptical. Now, I don't know if this is good or if this is bad, but I can see why it's necessary. I can definitely see why it's necessary. And that's because there are too many people with quote-unquote great ideas coming at them all the time, right? Elevator pitches. Coming up, just polishing your message so it sounds fantastic. Sounds fantastic. If they put money, or time, by the way, into all of these ideas that the person had practiced saying so many times that they all sound great, they would blow through their budget, they would blow through all their time in the first quarter of the fiscal year, and they would get next to no value out of it. So they have to be skeptical. They've got to go through this long process to vet these things and see who lasts, see who sticks with it in order to determine where there is real value. So the key here for all of us in a custom podcasting business, when we want these people to be our clients, the key for us is to find a way to demonstrate actual value to these very skeptical decision makers. That is our thing. So how do we overcome these 3 challenges? Well, you guessed it. It's going to be right by requesting interviews from these companies, by somebody in these companies. Now, depending on how you are trying to partner with a large company, the correct decision maker that you are seeking are going to be in one of these three places. This is when it comes to custom podcasting, because we're either going to want to do an ad, a campaign, create a show for them. So the people that are going to be the decision makers who are actually going to sign us on and allow them to be our client are going to be either in the marketing department, in the communications department, or they're going to be in the advertising agency that is representing that company. It's going to be one of those three places. Now, there may be somewhere else, but these are the three where I focus all of my energy, and I think this is where you should too. Okay, so I've got some good news coming for you on this. Whether you hope to produce a podcast for this company, host a podcast for them, or have them do an advertising campaign with you on your show, you are going to need to be working with somebody in one of these three parts. So eventually, you're probably going to be working with a group of people and have all these entities represented if you get to that stage, but you're going to start off with somebody in one of these three departments. And this is the beautiful part about requesting somebody from their company to be a guest on your show. This is the very, very exciting part. And the reason is because a request of this kind, when you want to interview somebody from their company, it's going to get filtered through these same decision makers. Okay, so I want to make sure you're grasping what I'm saying. Everybody out there who is trying to do business with these large companies in this manner and is trying to reach these decision makers is going about it by going there and saying, we want to offer you, we have something of value, we want you to give us money for it. Just to boil it down. Everybody's doing that. They're hearing it day after day after day after day. And they've got to be very skeptical to only give money and time to people who are legitimately offering value that can benefit their company. But that is not their only responsibility. Their other responsibility is to spread the message of their company, reach people in their target demographic in their company, make their company look good. Therefore, when you approach their company and you request an interview with somebody from their company, the same people that you're going to be approaching trying to get them to pay you for the value you want to offer are the same people you're going to be approaching to request the interview. That's what's beautiful about custom podcasting. Because you have a way of approaching these people and connecting with them where you're offering them something for free. You're offering them a value for free. You're giving. And it's the same people that you want to approach later for business. So think about this. Let's say you're a screen print company and you want to do screen printing for, I don't know, a new line of clothing that this company produces or whatever it may be. You've only got one way in, and that's to approach the people that you want to sell your product. You don't have another way to get them to pay attention to you. But in our case, we do, and that is by interviewing people from their company, which is totally legitimate. It's not underhanded at all because their company is in our industry umbrella, and the people there have something interesting to say to our audience. It's asking for an interview that is going to create value for our audience. This is a big deal when it comes to custom podcasting. This is a big deal because it gives you a way to develop these relationships and jump over all the hoops that everybody else in other industries has to go through to finally reach a decision maker. This is huge. Okay, so follow with me here. When you request to interview somebody, let's say you're requesting to interview somebody. I'm going to boil this down to what I do. So I'm in agriculture, okay? Let's say I want to talk to somebody. I want to interview somebody who works for Cargill, to name a large agricultural company. If I want to interview somebody who works for Cargill who does, they do custom spraying on crops, whatever that may be, I still have to go through the communications department to set up this interview. Right? The interview has nothing to do. I don't want to interview anybody from the communications department. I want to interview somebody who does custom spraying. But to arrange that interview, I still have to go through the communications department. Well, who's my future customer with this company as a custom podcaster? My future customer is the communications department. You see what I'm saying? I don't know of another industry that works like this, like what we can do with custom podcasting. While we're creating value for our listeners, we're developing relationships with people we would have otherwise no way to contact. The people in communications, the people in marketing. This is a big deal. This is why I love this business. So when you call or you email and you're requesting an interview, you are now approaching the communications or the marketing department or possibly the advertising agency that represents them, and you are offering them something of value, something that they are interested in. You do not look like a taker. You look like a giver, because you are, right? And they will see value in sharing and spreading their company's message. After all, the very definition of working in marketing and communication and advertising is spreading the word about your company, right? So when you send this email or you make this phone call and you request this interview, you've figured out a way to bypass all of the gatekeepers and get right to the actual decision makers. Those gatekeepers are going to open up the doors for you and let you go directly to those decision makers. Now, it doesn't mean you're getting on the phone with them right away. That's not what I'm saying, but it does mean that they're going to know who you are. And at the very least, even if you don't get to the direct decision maker, you're going to get to somebody in that hierarchy who has significant influence with that decision maker, somebody they trust, somebody who's been there for some years, they've got some experience, they've been promoted. And now the question you should have as a skeptical podcast listener is why? Why is this going to happen just because I'm requesting an interview? It's because these decision makers in the communications and the marketing department have two jobs. Okay? Two major things they've got to guard. They've got to guard that budget. They're allowed to spend X amount of that company's budget, but they need to bring value back with the money they spend. They need to take that money and make it into more money by spreading the message of their company in an effective way. And they have to guard the reputation of that company. That's what the communications department is all about. They have to guard that reputation. So, the decision maker wants the exposure from the interview that you are offering, because that serves the purpose of growing the brand, of building that company. They want that exposure. But they've got to make sure that you are going to represent their company favorably. They've got to protect that reputation. They've got to balance these two things. This is a big decision for them. Even on your small startup podcast, if they say yes to an interview and you ambush them with some sort of gotcha journalism, or you trip somebody up, or somebody says something on accident on your show they shouldn't have said and you publish it, that is bad for that communications director. That is not good. They have got to guard against that. They've got to make sure they're making good, responsible decisions with doing interviews like this, because whoever's doing the interview is representing their company. They are the face of that company for the time they're on your podcast. So, this means that one of their most trusted employees is going to take a very, very good look at your show. They're probably going to be speaking with you about your intentions and coordinating the interview. They might even be on the line listening while you are doing the interview. I've done a number of interviews where the communications director is muted but is there listening to the interview in the same room with the person that I'm interviewing. In the same room. Just like an attorney would be present if they were being questioned by the police. This is a big deal to you. This is an opportunity for you. And while you're doing the interview, you are going to be professional. You're going to be demonstrating knowledge of their company. And then later, you are going to produce an absolutely great episode that is going to make this decision maker very, very happy they said yes to one of their people in their company being a guest on your show. Everything about this interview, no matter who it is in the company you want to interview, is going to get coordinated through the communications department. That is their job. They've got to guard that reputation. That is their job. You're going to give them value. You're going to give them great value. It's going to be for free. They're going to be able to repurpose this content anytime and any way they want to. And you're going to do that all for free, and they're going to know who you are. And guess what? They're now part of your network. And now when you call, when you email, they pick up the phone. They call you back. They return your email. Because you came to them with an offer once. You didn't burn them. It turned out to be something of great value to them. They had a positive experience. And when they see your name, it rings true in their mind. Positive, positive, positive. This is a call I want to take. So I don't know if I could say this over and over and over in my head, because to me, it is a mind-blowing thing that I've stumbled into in custom podcasting. That no matter, because of what you're doing, because you're entrepreneurial, because you own your own show, when you're interviewing somebody from that company in some far-off division 3 states away from the corporate headquarters, it all has to get funneled through the people that you're going to approach at some point in time in the future to be your customers. Because that's the way it works. And only doing something like a custom podcast gives you this opportunity to make this connection. You skip that. You just leapfrog right over all of those obstacles. Okay, so what does this do? Well, when you do this first show, this first interview, I should say, and you get introduced in this way, and you produce something that they're happy with, they like how you represented them, it plants a seed. And since we're on the front end of podcasting, since corporate America is still emerging, still finding their way into podcasting, and by the way, every indication I'm getting is that it is just this tidal wave is coming. This plants a seed in the mind of this decision maker. And after they listen to the podcast episode that you create, they are asking themselves, well, how could we leverage the power of this platform for the benefit of the company? And then they start to wonder what it would take to do it themselves, and what's the next question they ask? Who can I ask about this? Well, when they are trying to identify an expert in podcasting that's already in their industry umbrella, one name's going to come to mind, and that is going to be your name, by the way, because it just happens to be the podcast host that gave them the idea in the first place. And it is just very, very powerful, everybody. So the benefits of doing this, they do not have to wait for the decision maker to come up with the idea all on their own, because eventually that's going to happen. But if you don't want to wait that long, you don't have to. So now when you get an idea, by the way, if you want to be proactive, now when you get an idea to create a show for this company or to do a marketing campaign with them, and you call, again, that call goes through. You at least get the opportunity. It's like being at the conference and getting the opportunity, except now this person knows who you are when you walk up to them, or when you call, or when you email. You know who to ask for. You know who the actual person is, and they already value something you've done. I mean, you're so far ahead at this point. It's just ridiculous. So the fact that you interacted with these decision makers by interviewing somebody from their company, it is going to allow you to get an audience with them when you have an idea about how you want to work with them. And this is all you can ask. You can't ask for anything beyond this. And this is something that 90, 95, 98% of the people out there are trying to get, and they can't get. They can't get this deep inside of this corporation. But you can, because you're doing interviews, and all interviews have to be funneled through the people who you will later approach to do business with their company, to provide a service to them. To me, it's just fantastic. I just love this aspect of it. Super, super exciting. And I can't tell you how much I think this is right. I really, just getting back from this conference I just went to, I told you it was probably the best conference I've ever been to for what I'm trying to do in this business. Oh my goodness, do I think this is right. Okay. All right, everybody. So we talked about decision makers. We talked about building your network. Let's just end on talking about how having an interview-based show benefits your schedule. There is one last reason that I am a proponent of an interview-based show, and that, of course, is your busy schedule. If you're doing an interview-based show, it is very easy to prepare versus a solo-based show. You can either design an interview-based show so that you ask the same questions each and every time, like I do with off-farm income, or you can ask questions that are specific to the guest who's coming on. Either way, your prep time is going to be significantly reduced when you're doing an interview-based show. So if you have a standard set of questions you're asking, then there is virtually no prep needed other than just booking the guests. Like for the Off-Farm Income podcast, there have been more than one time, I hate to admit it because it's not professional, but there's been more than one time that I've been down at the coffee shop working on stuff and I forgot about an interview I've got coming up that day, and I might get a text or I might see it at the last minute, and I got to pack everything up. I got to run home to the studio, fire up the computer, fire up the mixer, the microphone, all of that, and just make the call. Just jump on the call and do the interview. But since I've got, I've done this exact interview multiple times, I got the questions already prepared. Even though I was behind the 8 ball or I even forgot about it, I've wound up with a great episode. And, I reserve the right, even though I've got pre-prepared questions, to take the conversation where it naturally leads. And so really all I've got to do is just get into the flow of it, and I'm right back into the flow. I didn't need to be prepping for an hour or two prior to the interview. So that's one benefit of doing an interview-based show and doing it with the same set of questions over and over and over again. Now, for one of my clients, D&B Supply, for that show, we don't have a standard guest format because I interview guests from all over the spectrum of what we're involved in. So I've got to come up with questions for each individual guest. And there have been times at that same exact coffee shop that I've booked a guest while I'm sitting there, and then they said, well, can you send me some questions in advance? And so I don't forget, I just knock those questions out in the next 10 minutes and email them off to them. And I've had people like, oh my goodness, how did you come up with all these questions so quick? But the secret here is that it gets easier and easier as time goes on. Make sure to remind yourself that one of the reasons that you're going to do a good interview is that you are a naturally curious person. And you're naturally curious about the topic you're going to be covering. And if that's the case, then you do a little bit of research into this person and into this topic, and the questions just flow into your mind. You just jot them down on a sheet of paper, just on a Word document or a Pages document on a Mac or whatever. Just write them down really quick. These questions just flow out of you. It becomes easier and easier and easier. You just get them written down in about 10 minutes, and you're prepped, and you're done. And so if you're very busy and you're looking for ways to get through the crazy time of doing your side hustle as it grows, as well as your full-time job, or even if you get to the point where I'm at, where this is my full-time job and I'm really busy, doing this, having an interview-based show can definitely take something off of your plate, that prep time, and it can make it much easier. My prep time for Off-Farm Income for the D&B Supply show is so much smaller than it is for Microphone Money. So much smaller. And that's because they're interview-based shows. All right. Well, one of the biggest risks, you guys, to sustaining your show when you first start out is going to be the time that it takes to get it all done. And if you can come up with a system to make it easier and reduce that time needed, it's really, really going to increase your chances of success. So an interview-based show, there's just another benefit to it there as well. And I really do believe that interview-based shows, they're going to do this while at the same time they're going to help you to build your business. There's just so many positives about it. It's going to help you sustain and keep going, be regular. At the same time, you're building your network and you're opening up doors that are going to give you chances to develop clients and really build your business. So I'm a big proponent of an interview-based show for what I'm trying to teach here on the show. Doesn't mean that you have to do it that way. But obviously, after doing this for 3 episodes now, I thought it was going to be 2. It wound up being 3. After doing this for 3 episodes now, I obviously have a lot to say about this. So everybody, again, as always, I want to hear what you're doing on your show. Please let me know. Please let me know what you're producing. And I cannot wait to brag about your shows. All right, everybody, have a great week.